Hey guys, I'm Sean. I'm a full-time YouTuber from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in America. I've been living here for around 10 years and I speak fluent Korean. Overall, I'm very happy with my life here in Korea. So during my time here, a lot of Koreans and foreigners too have asked me, Sean, why did you come to Korea? You could teach English in so many other countries. Why did you choose to come here? Well, buckle in and I'll tell you the story of how this kid from Philadelphia who majored in theater became a full-time YouTuber here in South Korea. Pretty random, right? Perhaps some people watching are thinking of moving to South Korea, or some Koreans watching are thinking of moving to America or another country, and you can maybe learn from my experience of living abroad. Also, for people studying English who want a bit of structure, I just released a course, 션의 살아있는 영어, but I'll talk more about that later. So let's begin. The year is 2013, and I'm about to graduate from Temple University in Philadelphia with a degree in theater. I originally wanted to be an actor because it was the only thing that interested me during university. I had taken many classes to sample different majors, and acting was the only thing that I felt like I could do. I honestly hated the forced structure of school, and I couldn't wait to get out of that environment. In addition to this, I could not see myself working in a company for the rest of my life. So respect to anybody who's working in a company right now, or someone who's found a company that they like. That's great, but I could never do that. My dream was to go to Hollywood and audition for small roles and act in independent films at first. So I acted in many plays in university and even starred in an independent student film, and I could really see myself doing this for the rest of my life. My best friend in university was a guy named Sam. He was also a theater major, and we both had the goal of being successful actors in Hollywood after graduating from university. So Sam had already graduated one semester before me, so in 2013, as I was about to graduate, he had already been living in Los Angeles, in Hollywood, auditioning for small roles and doing small part-time jobs. Just hearing the news from him about how he was always meeting cool people, seeing Hollywood stars, getting all these amazing opportunities, I was just so jealous and I couldn't wait to get started myself. So when I eventually graduated from university, my plan was to work for 6 months in a restaurant or somewhere, save up some money, and then move out to LA to meet up with Sam. So I ended up landing a really good job at a popular restaurant in the center of Philadelphia in Center City called the Green Eggs Cafe. And because it was so popular, I was able to make a lot of money in tips, and this was a great job for me to save up money. So at the time, acting was my passion, that and music. During my free time, I was listening to and playing lots and lots of music. I had written a solo album and was also playing music with a band called Elegant Animals, which was led by a man named Julian, who was actually dating my sister at the time. They're actually married now, so it's pretty crazy how things worked out. So now I was in this weird position where my music career was starting to blossom, which I did not at all expect. I was making decent money from this restaurant I was working in, and I was planning still to move out to LA to meet up with Sam and start my eventual career as an actor. Also at this time, I was still recovering emotionally from a pretty difficult breakup with a girl that I really liked at the time. Saying all this now really reminds me of how chaotic of a time this was. But I guess life can be pretty chaotic when you're in your early 20s, right? So my course of action seemed pretty clear. Earn money in the restaurant, play music on the side, and prepare to move to LA. I was thinking though, I really wanted to have one last adventure before I really buckled down and focused on my career in the US, settled down, maybe meet someone and buy a house, so on and so forth. I wanted to have one last adventure. Also, up until this point, besides my 3-month study abroad experience in Rome when I was in university, I had never experienced living in another country as an adult. One day while watching YouTube, I stumbled upon some videos about people teaching English in Asia, Korea and Japan to be exact. Growing up, I had always had a fascination with Japan and Japanese culture, ninjas, samurais, anime, Miyazaki Hayao, and I think a lot of other Americans in my generation have this similar fascination with Japanese culture. So this was my first choice. I wanted to go to Osaka or Tokyo and teach kids or adults. I didn't really care, but this was my first choice. However, as I kept doing research about teaching English in Asia and Japan, videos about Korea just kept popping up more and more and more. So I watched them. English teachers in these videos seemed to really enjoy their life in South Korea. They talked about how clean and safe it was, how nice Korean people were, and how comfortable it was living in South Korea while teaching English. At the time, all I knew about South Korea was Taekwondo, Gangnam Style, esports and StarCraft 2, and the whole online gaming world over there, and the crazy guy up north. It's funny, I think a lot of Americans at this time didn't know much at all about South Korea. We forget how, these days South Korea is so popular. Everybody knows about Squid Game, BTS, just Korean culture and food. It's become more popular, but not that long ago, 10, 15 years, South Korea was pretty unknown to most people. So I eventually decided that living and working in South Korea for 1 year was the thing I wanted to do. So the first thing I did was, get my ESL certification. I studied how to teach English as a second language. I took an online course. I went to an in-person seminar in New York City. That was pretty interesting. And then I started to look for positions in different parts of South Korea. And I eventually decided on going to Chungju. It was a job in Chungju City teaching at an elementary school, and according to Google, it was only 2 hours from Seoul, which in American standards is pretty close. So I imagined myself being able to, get off of work and just take a bus to Seoul, or, on the weekend, every weekend, Saturday, Sunday, maybe I could just hang out in Seoul and then just come back really easily. But in reality, that ended up not being the case. 2 hours is actually a lot farther than I imagined it would be. So I signed the contract, and my plan was to go there for a year, make some friends, study some Korean, try some new food, have an interesting experience, come back to Philadelphia, then make my preparations to go to Hollywood, to go to LA and become a famous Hollywood actor. Sounds like a perfect plan, right? I came to South Korea in July of 2014, and my life in Chungju was great. It was really peaceful, there was lots of nature, and the air quality was really good. And more than anything, it gave me a lot of time to just walk down empty streets while listening to music and just think. Just enjoy the emptiness, the calmness of Chungju, which was just a much smaller city than Seoul, so far more peaceful and just calm. My co-teachers were really kind, and the kids I was teaching were really easy to teach. They were just lovely kids. Well, most of them were. In Chungju, I had a great routine of preparing my lunch in the morning, going to the gym at around 9 a.m., having my workout, then heading to my work, my school, to eat my lunch and prepare my classes. I would then teach kids from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. How are you?
How are you?
How are you?
I'm so good.
So good.
So good.
And then I was done. Some days I would even walk to work from my house and listen to music along the way. Overall, life was really simple and just peaceful here. I made lots of really cool friends here in Chungju during my first year, and even started a once-a-week board game night with other English teachers in Chungju. We would order pizza, have some beers, play Settlers of Catan, and talk loads and loads of shit against each other. Also, during this time, I was listening to and playing lots and lots of music. And during my first 3 months in Chungju, I actually wrote an album, a full album. I'll play a little bit for you guys right now. After I produced this album though, I was kind of tired of the songwriting process and I needed a break to recharge my creativity. I wanted to challenge myself by learning something new, and I thought, well, since I'm living in Korea, I might as well learn Korean, right? I studied and learned the alphabet during my free time at home and during my downtime at work. I made a list of the 100 most frequently used verbs in Korean, I studied them, and I had my Korean co-teachers quiz me. I would challenge myself by listening to and studying Korean dialogues on YouTube, by talking with taxi drivers, and of course by talking with my Korean coworkers and my kids too. As my one-year contract was coming to an end, I had made a surprising amount of progress with my Korean skills. I was able to have very basic conversations in Korean and take care of pretty much all of my survival needs, like going to the store, going to the hospital, taking taxis, ordering stuff, things like this. I remember one time I was with some foreign friends and I was the unofficial translator of the group. I was ordering in restaurants and talking to taxi drivers, and they were just so impressed by my skills, and this felt so good. I loved this feeling of personal development and improving my Korean skills so much that after my one-year contract was finished, I decided to live in Korea for one more year and go to Seoul to seok University Language School to study there, as seok University Language School is actually famous for their speaking. A lot of people really improve their speaking by going there. And let me tell you, this was a great decision as it helped me to improve my Korean so much. Also, during my time in Chungju, I met a really interesting guy named David. David was a half Korean, half Canadian English teacher who I met in Chungju, and just like me, David had the plan of moving to Seoul after his 1 year of teaching English in Chungju was over. We both had really similar ambitions to improve our Korean, and so we eventually decided to start a YouTube channel together. So this was my first YouTube channel, and the goal of the channel was to show viewers and document our experience studying and learning Korean by putting ourselves in difficult situations where we had to use our Korean to solve problems. Some examples of these videos are talking to Koreans on a bus in Korean, small talking with them, playing board games in Korean, ordering coffee at a dog cafe in Korea, talking with taxi drivers, and just so many other quirky and fun, interesting ideas. It was a lot of fun. So my schedule became teach English at Korean elementary schools during the day and film and edit YouTube videos during evenings and on the weekends. I also taught Korean adults English at 1.2. So around this time, I was nearing the end of my second year in Korea. And just like the end of my first year, I decided to stay for one more year to continue to learn Korean and to work on my YouTube channel. It was around this point that I decided to make my own YouTube channel, the YouTube channel that I'm famous for, which is Sean Pablo. I could have more creative freedom and make videos for a Korean audience. My older videos, which had far lower production quality than today, still did pretty well. I would film lots of street interviews and test foreigners in Korea to see how well they spoke Korean. I originally filmed my videos on an iPhone and a set of headphones which I used as a mic. So I was getting some views on my early videos, and this really encouraged me. So I continued to grow my channel in this way while teaching English on the side. This modest success on my earlier videos was really encouraging to me. So I made a promise to myself to upload one video every single week while teaching English on the side. This ended up being an amazing investment as I really trained myself to stay consistent and keep uploading. Fast forward now to 2018 when I uploaded a few videos that went really well, viral even, and this really solidified my status as a full-time YouTuber. Since these videos did well, and since I'd recently received my permanent visa in Korea, I decided to quit my English teaching job and really just focus completely on YouTube after 4 years of living in Korea. A year later in 2019, I met my girlfriend Yoo-jung, who I've been dating now for 4.5 years. It's been amazing to share my life with her and to see both her and I together grow in our careers, our health, and our mind. Personal development has been so rewarding with her. She's definitely made Korea a much better place for me to live, and her family has always been so welcoming and loving to me. Overall, life in Korea as a full-time YouTuber is not easy, as I'm constantly under stress to create and make new, more exciting videos. I still have a long way to go, and I'm still very far from being rich, but I've learned ways to deal with the stress, and I've surrounded myself with really amazing people, which helps a lot. To this day, I've worked with amazing companies like Bingure, Speak, and even Coupang. I've continued to improve my skills and level of video production. I've continued to study Korean and learn about Korean culture, which has further deepened my appreciation for living here in South Korea. So anyway, that's the story of how I came to live here in Korea for 10 years. It became my home, and I'm so lucky to have met so many wonderful people here. By the way, Sam, who I still keep in touch with a lot, visited me here in Seoul last year, and we had a blast. Also, Sam recently got his PhD in psychology in California, and he's doing really well, so congrats to him. In terms of my future and what country I plan to live in, I'm still undecided. There are many factors at play and things to consider, but at the moment, South Korea is my home. There are many things I wasn't able to talk about in this video, such as how South Korea was during COVID and how I had to change the direction of my channel during COVID because I couldn't travel, how I met my girlfriend, and what happened to my old band and music career. But maybe I can cover these things in a future video, right? Let me know down below if you want to hear more about these stories. Anyway, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was a lot of fun to make, and I can make more if you guys want. Just let me know in the comments down below. Once again, I'm Sean, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. So when I first came to Korea, I didn't speak any Korean. I had to teach myself Korean. I started learning how to read and write. Then I learned the 100 most commonly used verbs in Korean. You know, things like 먹다, 하다, 쓰다, these kinds of verbs. I eventually started listening to easy conversations, easy dialogues in Korean. And let me tell you, this was the most helpful thing I did. If you're learning English, it's really important to listen to real conversations where you can hear useful expressions, useful words, useful grammar, and natural pronunciation. That's why I made 션의 살아있는 영어. I came up with a list of extremely useful conversational English questions, answers to these questions, and other expressions. I explain all of these expressions in detail in Korean. I give you several example sentences showing you how to use the expressions, and then, this is the best part, I go out into the streets and interview extremely fluent and native English speakers using these expressions so you can see in real time, living, breathing English, how it's used and how to respond naturally to everything. This is the course I wish I had when I was studying Korean. This course is perfect for people preparing for working holiday, studying abroad, traveling abroad, meeting foreign friends, meeting your foreign romantic partner's family. So far, people are loving it. To see a free sample lesson, click the link down below. Let's continue with the video now.